The massive space station hung in orbit like a jewel against the darkness. Inside, creatures from 1,000 worlds lived behind walls of light and metal. This was the Galactic Zoo, the most famous collection in the universe. Today, Earth wanted to join it. Day One stood in the presentation chamber, his hands shaking slightly. He was 34 years old and had studied animals his whole life. This moment meant everything to him. Around him sat beings that looked nothing like humans. Some had scales, some had tentacles, some glowed with strange colors. All of them were watching him with expressions he couldn't read. "Honorable members of the consortium," Day One began. His voice echoed in the huge room. "Earth is home to millions of species. We have creatures that fly, swim, and run. We have animals that think, feel, and create. Today, I want to show you why Earth's animals deserve a place in your collection." He pressed a button. Holograms filled the air above him. First came the elephant, massive and gray, its trunk reaching toward virtual trees. The alien council members barely looked. One made a sound like grinding rocks. Another turned one of its many eyes away. Next, Day One showed dolphins leaping through ocean waves. He showed eagles soaring across mountains. He showed tigers prowling through forests. Each time, he explained what made these animals special. The elephants remembered their dead. The dolphins called each other by name. The eagles could see prey from miles away. The tigers were perfect hunters. The council chamber remained silent. Not the good kind of silent. The cold kind. Director Vellum rose from his seat. He was made of crystal that shifted colors when he moved. His voice sounded like glass bells. "We have seen enough. Your planet offers nothing new. Elephants? We have the Groven Trampler, 3 times larger and twice as intelligent. Dolphins? The aquatic singers of Telos. 5 can compose symphonies with their calls. Eagles? Tigers? Every world has predators. Every world has hunters. You waste our time with the ordinary." Hyojin stepped forward. She was Day One's partner. A woman who had spent 15 years studying dangerous animals. Her dark hair was pulled back tight, and her eyes were fierce. "With respect, Director, you judge without understanding. Earth's animals have qualities you haven't measured. The way they adapt, the way they learn, the way they survive in impossible situations." "Adapt?" Another council member spoke, this one covered in blue fur. "My world's creatures can change their body structure in seconds. That is adaptation." "Learn," said a third voice from a being that looked like floating smoke. "We have animals that are born with complete knowledge of mathematics." Vellum's crystal body flashed red. "The verdict is clear. Earth's animals are rejected. They show nothing exceptional, nothing worthy of the Galactic Zoo. This presentation is over." Day One felt his heart sink. Years of work, months of preparation, all for nothing. He looked at Hyojin, who shook her head slowly. They were about to leave when Day One remembered something. "Wait," he said. "We brought one more. One live specimen. We thought you might want to see an Earth predator in person, not just in holograms." This got their attention. Vellum tilted his crystalline head. "A live specimen? Here? Why would you risk bringing an animal to this station without permission?" "We had permission for evaluation samples," Hyojin said quickly. "It's in proper containment. Complete security. We brought him in. Case you wanted to observe Earth biology directly." The council members looked at each other. Several started making sounds that the translation devices couldn't process, probably arguing. Finally, Vellum spoke again. "Very well. We will observe this creature tomorrow morning. But I warn you, humans, if it proves as ordinary as everything else you have shown us, Earth will be banned from applying again for 50 cycles. Do you understand?" 2. "We understand," Daiwan said. "What species is this animal?" asked Elder Prin. An old creature that looked like a walking tree with kind eyes. "A black panther," Hyojin answered. His name is Balam. The council chamber emptied slowly. Aliens of every shape filed out through doors that adjusted size to fit them. Daewon and Hyojin stood alone in the vast space, surrounded by the fading holograms of Earth's rejected animals. That went badly, Daewon said quietly. They didn't even try to understand, Hyojin replied. They looked at the surface and decided that was everything. Maybe we shouldn't have come. Maybe Earth isn't ready for this. No. Hyojin put a hand on his shoulder. Earth is ready. They're the ones who aren't ready. They've forgotten what real intelligence looks like. They walked through the station's corridors back to their quarters. The station was huge, big enough to hold millions of beings. The walls were made of metal that somehow felt alive. Lights moved and changed to guide visitors. The air tasted recycled, but clean. They passed the containment area where Balam was being kept. Through a window of thick, transparent material, they could see his cage. It was large, built to hold creatures much more dangerous than Earth animals. Force fields glowed blue around it. Security cameras watched from every angle. Balam sat in the center of his cage, perfectly still. He was beautiful. Black fur so dark it seemed to absorb light. Muscles that moved like water under his skin. And his eyes, golden eyes that seemed to glow in the dim light. Those eyes turned to look at Daewon and Hyojin as they passed. Do you think he understands? Daewon asked. That tomorrow decides everything? I think he understands more than the council gives him credit for, Hyojin said. I've worked with big cats for years. Panthers especially. They watch. They learn. They remember. Balam is special, even among panthers. Special enough to change their minds? I don't know. They kept walking. Behind them, Balam continued to watch. His golden eyes followed them until they turned a corner and disappeared from sight. In the security control room 3 levels up, a technician named Sora monitored the screens. She was young, just 23, assigned to night watch duty. Earth animals didn't worry her. She had seen creatures that could melt steel with their breath. A cat from a primitive world seemed harmless. She almost missed it. Just a flicker on one of the screens. A brief moment where the feed from Balam's cage went dark for half a second. Then it came back. Everything looked normal. Balam sat in the same position, unmoving. Sora logged it as a minor glitch. These things happened in space. Radiation sometimes affected the systems. She made a note for the technicians to check the cameras in the morning. She didn't know that in that half-second of darkness, Balam had moved. He had jumped straight up, his paws touching the ceiling of his cage. Testing it. He had landed back in the exact same position before the cameras returned. In his cage, Balam continued to sit perfectly still. But now his eyes were looking at something else. The ventilation shaft above him. The force field generators to his left and right. The door mechanism in front of him. He had watched the technicians set up his cage. He had seen which panel controlled the force fields. He had noticed which part of the ceiling was weakest. He had counted the seconds between security patrols. Balam was a panther. Panthers were patient. Panthers were careful. Panthers waited for the perfect moment. He would wait. But not for long. Tomorrow, the council would judge him. They would look at him and see just another predator. Just another ordinary animal from a primitive world. They would be wrong. And soon, very soon, he would show them exactly how wrong they were. Outside the station, stars wheeled slowly across the darkness. Inside, thousands of captured animals slept in their cages, dreaming whatever captured things dream. And in one special reinforced containment unit, a black panther sat absolutely still, his golden eyes reflecting the light of the force fields, waiting. The observation arena was full. Hundreds of aliens crowded into the viewing stands, their bodies pressing against each other in ways that shouldn't be possible. Some hung from the ceiling, others floated in special gravity fields. News of the Earth animal evaluation had spread through the station overnight. Everyone wanted to see what would happen. Daewon stood at the edge of the arena floor, his stomach tight with worry. Beside him, Hyojin checked her datapad for the 100th time. Behind them, Taejun waited near Balam's transport cage. Taejun was the man who had raised Balam from a cub after finding him abandoned in a research facility. He was older, maybe 50, with gray in his hair and scars on his hands from years of working with dangerous animals. "He'll be fine," Taejun said softly. "Balam knows what he's doing. That's what worries me," Hyojin replied. "If he gets nervous, if he acts aggressive, they'll use it as proof that Earth animals are just beasts." The arena itself was massive. The floor was made of metal that could change shape. The walls were lined with force field generators. In the center sat Balam's cage, transparent on all sides, so everyone could see in. Director Vellum floated down from the main viewing platform. His crystal body caught the light and threw rainbows across the arena floor. Around him came other council members. The blue-furred one, the smoke being. Elder Prin, with his tree-like appearance. At least 20 others. "Begin the evaluation," Vellum announced. His voice boomed through speakers. Technicians opened Balam's transport cage. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Balam walked out slowly, his muscles moving smooth under his black fur. He didn't run. He didn't crouch. He walked like he owned the space, his head up, his golden eyes scanning everything around him. The crowd made sounds, gasps, clicks, whistles. Balam ignored them all. He moved to the center of the arena and sat down, his tail wrapped around his paws. "Impressive physical specimen," said the blue-furred council member. "But we have seen larger predators. Stronger ones. Let us measure it," Vellum said. Machines descended from the ceiling. They surrounded Balam with lights and beams, scanning his bones, his muscles, his brain. Balam sat perfectly still through all of it, not even flinching when the machines came close to his face. The data appeared on screens around the arena, numbers and charts that meant nothing to Daewon but clearly meant something to the council. Physical strength, adequate but not exceptional. Read one council member. Speed, good for its size class, but nothing special. Sold. Brain structure, typical for a predator species. Large sections for hunting and motor control. Smaller sections for complex thinking. Daewon wanted to scream. They were measuring everything wrong. You couldn't understand an animal just by scanning it. You had to watch how it behaved, how it solved problems, how it interacted with the world. Elder Prin seemed to sense this. "Perhaps we should observe its behavior. See how it thinks." "Very well," Vellum said. He didn't sound interested. "Release a prey animal. Let us see it hunt." A door opened on the far side of the arena. Something hopped out. It looked like a rabbit, but was the size of a large dog, with 6 legs and purple fur. Its eyes were huge and frightened. "A Thexian cave hopper," announced Vellum. "A valuable prey species from Council Member Thex's homeworld. If the Panther can catch it, we will be moderately impressed." Balam turned his head to look at the hopper. The hopper saw Balam and froze. In the stands, the crowd leaned forward. Even Daewon held his breath. Balam didn't move. He sat there, watching the hopper. The hopper took a tentative hop forward, then another. It moved sideways, testing, trying to figure out if Balam was a threat. "Is your animal broken?" asked the blue-furred council member. "Why doesn't it attack? Why?" "He's observing," Hyojin said. Her voice carried through the arena's speakers. "He's learning how his prey moves before he commits to action." "That's just hesitation," Vellum said. "A proper predator would strike immediately." But Hyojin was right. Balam watched the hopper make 3 more hops. He saw how it moved faster to the left than to the right. He noticed that it paused before jumping. He calculated angles and distances. Then he moved. It happened so fast, that most of the crowd missed it. One moment, Balam was sitting still. The next moment, he was a black blur across the arena floor. The hopper tried to jump away, but Balam had already predicted which direction it would go. His paws touched exactly where the hopper landed. He pinned it gently, his jaws near its neck, but not biting. The hopper struggled for a second, then went still. Balam had won. The crowd erupted in sounds, some impressed, some dismissive. Balam released the hopper and stepped back. The hopper scrambled away, unhurt, and disappeared back through the door it had come from. "Adequate hunting skills," Velum said, though his tone suggested he was slightly more interested now. The Panther calculated the prey's movement. "This shows basic problem solving." "Basic?" Taejun stepped forward, unable to stay quiet anymore. He studied the prey. He waited. He struck at exactly the right moment, and held back from killing. "That's not basic. That's advanced thinking." "It's instinct," said another council member. "Predators across the universe do this. My world has the Serac Stalker, which can predict prey movement for up to 30 seconds in advance. Then test something that isn't instinct," Hyojin said. Her hands were clenched into fists. "Test his ability to solve problems he's never seen before." Velum's crystal body flashed. "Very well. We will test the Panther's intelligence directly." The arena floor changed. Walls rose up, creating a maze. At the end of the maze, the technicians placed a piece of meat. Balam stood at the entrance, watching. "The maze changes," Velum explained. "Every 30 seconds, walls move. The Panther must find the food before the maze resets. Most animals panic. Most animals fail. Begin," he commanded. Balam entered the maze. For a few seconds, he walked forward, then hit a dead end. The crowd made dismissive sounds. But Balam didn't panic. He sat down at the dead end and looked up. "What is it doing?" someone asked. Balam was looking at the top of the maze walls. He could see over them. He was mapping the entire maze from his position, using his height and his ability to see patterns. Then he moved. He went back to the start and took a different path. This time he made 3 turns without hitting a single dead end. When walls started to shift, he stopped and waited. He watched which walls moved and which stayed still. He learned the pattern. 30 seconds later, Balam reached the meat. He didn't eat it. He touched it with his paw and then looked back at the viewing stands, directly at Velum. The arena was silent. "It learned the maze structure," Elder Prin said softly. "In real time. While the maze was changing." "Lucky guess," Velum said, but his voice had lost some of its certainty. They tested Balam 5 more times. Each time, the tests got harder. Each time, Balam succeeded. He opened a locked box by watching which buttons the technicians pressed. He retrieved an object from a tube by using his claws like tools. He even figured out how to use a lever system to reach food on a high platform. Through it all, Hyojin noticed something the council didn't. Balam kept looking at things he shouldn't care about. The force field generators on the walls, the control panels near the doors, the ventilation shafts in the ceiling. He was studying the arena itself, not just the tests. "Impressive," Elder Prin admitted. "The creature shows genuine problem-solving abilities, but not exceptional," Velum said quickly. "Many species can solve problems. This does not make the Panther special." "With respect," Daewon said, trying to keep his voice calm. "How many of those species figured out your tests in minutes, without any training?" "The decision is made," Velum announced, ignoring the question. "The Panther shows adequate intelligence. But adequate is not enough for the Galactic Zoo. We accept only the extraordinary. Earth's animals remain rejected." "You're making a mistake," Taejun said. "The vote is called," Velum continued. "All in favor of rejecting Earth's application?" Crystal hands raised. Furry appendages lifted, bodies glowed in agreement. One by one, the council voted no. The decision is final. You have 24 hours to remove your animal from this station and return to Earth. The crowd began to leave. The show was over. Earth had failed. Day 1, Hyojin and Taejun stood in the emptying arena, watching as technicians prepared to move Balam back to his cage. The Panther walked calmly toward the transport unit. Not fighting, not resisting. But as he passed the control panel for the arena's main door, his tail brushed against it, just lightly, just for a second. The panel flickered. "Did you see that?" Hyojin whispered. "See what?" Daewon asked. "Balaam. He touched that control panel. On purpose. You're imagining things," Taejun said. But he didn't sound certain. That night, Taejun went to check on Balaam one last time. The Panther lay in his cage, looking relaxed. But his golden eyes were fixed on something above him. The ventilation shaft. Taejun looked closer and saw fresh scratch marks around the metal grate. But that was impossible. The grate was 3 meters up. Balaam couldn't reach that high. Could he? Taejun told himself he was being paranoid. Panthers couldn't plan escapes. Panthers couldn't study security systems. Panthers were just animals. He left Balaam's containment area and went to sleep. He shouldn't have. The alarm ripped through the station at 3 in the morning. Red lights flashed in every corridor. A voice repeated the same message in 40 different languages. Security breach. Level 5. All personnel. Report to stations. Sora was the first to reach the containment area. She ran through the doors, her security badge bouncing against her chest. What she saw made her stop completely. Balaam's cage was empty. The force field generators sparked and smoked. The transparent walls were intact, but the door hung open. Inside the cage, everything looked normal, except for one thing. Long scratch marks ran across the force field control panel. 4 marks, perfectly spaced, like claw marks. "This is impossible," Sora whispered into her communicator. "The Panther is gone." Within minutes, the containment area filled with security personnel. Daewon, Hyojin, and Taejun were pulled from their quarters and brought in. Director Velum arrived with Warden Thex, the station's head of security. Thex was a massive being, covered in thick armor plates. He looked at the empty cage, and then at the humans. "You helped it escape," Thex said. His voice sounded like grinding rocks. "You sabotaged the containment systems. We've been in our quarters all night," Hyojin said. "Check your logs. Check your cameras. We never came near this area." End quote. End quote. Then how did a primitive animal escape from a force field cage designed to hold creatures that can bend steel? Thex demanded. "Show us the security footage," Daewon said. "That will tell us what happened." They moved to the security control room. Sora pulled up the footage from Balaam's cage. Everyone crowded around the screens, watching. At exactly 0247 hours, Balaam stood up in his cage. He stretched like any cat would after sleeping. Then he did something unexpected. He looked directly at the force field control panel and studied it for several seconds. "He's just looking at lights," Velum said. "Animals are attracted to light." But Balaam wasn't just looking. He was analyzing. His head tilted slightly as he examined each button and indicator on the panel. Then he walked to the side of his cage and jumped. The jump was perfect. Balaam's back paws pushed off from the floor with exact force. His front paws reached up and caught the edge of the ventilation grate, 3 meters above. He hung there for a moment, his muscles straining, then pulled himself up. His claws found the weak points in the grate and pried it open. "Impossible," Thex said. "That grate is reinforced metal. Nothing short of cutting tools could open it." But the footage showed Balaam doing exactly that. He squeezed into the ventilation shaft and disappeared. The camera lost him. "Check the duct system," Velum ordered. Sora pulled up camera feeds from inside the ventilation system. They showed Balam moving through the narrow passages like he had a map. He never took a wrong turn. He never backtracked. He went directly toward the main environmental controls. "He's heading for the zoo," Hyojin said. "The holding area where you keep all the collected creatures." "Why would it go there?" Thex asked. "I don't know," Hyojin admitted. "But we need to stop him before someone gets hurt." Security teams mobilized throughout the station. Doors locked down, corridors filled with armed guards, but Balam was already ahead of them. The cameras showed him dropping from a ventilation shaft directly into the zoo's maximum security wing. This was where the consortium kept their most dangerous specimens. Creatures that could kill with a thought. Predators that made Earth's animals look like toys. The cages here weren't just reinforced. They were works of engineering, designed to hold beings that could tear apart normal metal. Balam landed silently on the floor and looked around. Dozens of cages surrounded him, each holding something deadly. A creature made of living electricity crackled behind one force field. A serpent the size of a bus coiled behind another. Crystal hunters with blade-sharp edges clicked against their containment walls. "It's going to get itself killed," Taejun said, watching the screen. "Those creatures will attack anything they see." But Balam didn't approach the cages randomly. He walked slowly down the corridor between them, stopping at each one. At first, it looked like he was just curious. Then, they noticed something strange. Balam was reading. Each cage had a data panel beside it, displaying information about the creature inside in Galactic Standard. Basic things like species name, homeworld, and capture date. Balam stopped at each panel, his golden eyes moving across the text. "That's not possible," Velum said. "Animals cannot read." "Tell that to him," Day One replied. Balam stopped at a cage containing a massive creature that looked like a cross between a dragon and a tiger. The data panel identified it as a Vrexian thunderworm, captured from a planet called Vrex Prime. Balam studied the panel for a long moment, then looked at the cage's control system. "He's not going to Thex," started to say. Balam jumped. His paw hit the control panel in 3 specific spots. The first hit disabled the alarm. The second hit unlocked the magnetic seals. The third hit opened the cage door. The thunder worm exploded from its cage with a roar that shook the entire wing. It was huge, easily 5 times Balam's size, with electricity crackling across its scales. It could have killed Balam with one swipe. Instead, it looked at Balam. They stared at each other for several seconds. Then the thunderworm made a sound, almost like a purr, and touched its massive head to Balam's small one. "What just happened?" Sora asked. "He freed it," Hyojin said. Her voice was full of wonder. "And it knows he freed it." Balam moved to the next cage. This one held a pack of crystalline hunters, 6-legged creatures made of living diamond. He opened their cage the same way, hit the right spots on the control panel in the right order. The crystalline hunters poured out and surrounded Balam. But they didn't attack. They waited. "Sound the station-wide alarm," Velum commanded. "Lock down everything. Get every security team to that wing now." But Balam was already opening more cages. A void serpent that could phase through solid matter. Shadow cats from a planet with 3 moons. Plasma wolves that burned with inner fire. One by one, he freed them all. "He's creating an army," Thex said. "The creature is planning an attack." "No," Hyojin said, staring at the screen. She pulled up the data panels for each freed creature. "Look at the ones he's freeing. Look at what they all have in common." Day One looked. Then he saw it. Every creature Balam freed had the same note on their data panel. "Captured from homeworld against species consent." "He's not freeing all of them," Day One said slowly. "He's only freeing the ones that were taken from their homes. The ones that were stolen." Crunching. On the screen, Balam walked past several cages without opening them. These contained creatures born in captivity. Creatures that had never known freedom. Balam ignored them completely. "It can't be reading," Velum insisted. "You trained it somehow. This is a trick. We never trained him to read Galactic Standard, Taejun said. We didn't even know he could. Then how? Thex demanded. He learned, Hyojin said. Balam has been watching and listening since we arrived. Your translation devices. Your data panels. Your control systems. He learned your language. He learned how your technology works. And now he's using that knowledge. More security footage came in. The freed creatures were gathering together, moving through the station as a group. And they weren't random. They weren't attacking anyone. They were heading in one specific direction. Where are they going? Velum asked. So-Ra checked the route. The diplomatic hangar, where the transport ships are docked. He's trying to help them escape, Day One said. Balam isn't just freeing them. He's trying to get them home. Impossible, Velum said again. But his crystal body flickered with uncertainty. The security teams converged on the diplomatic hangar. They formed a wall of bodies and weapons, blocking all entrances. Inside the command center, everyone watched the screens as Balam led his group of freed creatures down the corridors. 17 creatures followed him. The Thunderworm, the Crystalline Hunters, the Void Serpent, all deadly, all capable of tearing through the security teams with ease, but they didn't attack. They just walked, following the small black panther at the front. He's herding them, Taejun said, like a shepherd with sheep. He's keeping them together, keeping them calm. Those aren't sheep, Thex said. Those are apex predators. They don't get herded. They do if they trust the one doing the herding, Hyojin said. The group reached the hangar entrance. Security teams stood ready, weapons charged. Commander Yurix had arrived, a military leader with 4 arms and tactical armor. He raised one hand, ready to give the order to fire. Balam stepped forward. The 17 creatures stopped behind him. He sat down, facing the security teams, his tail wrapped around his paws. His golden eyes looked at the weapons pointed at him. He didn't look scared. He looked determined. Give the order, Velum said to Yurix. End this before it gets worse. Wait, said Elder Prin. The old council member had been silent until now. Before we kill them, I want to understand something. How is this possible? How can an animal from a primitive world organize this? It doesn't matter how, Velum said. What matters is stopping it. Daewon stepped forward. It matters. You rejected Earth's animals because you said they were ordinary. You said they had nothing special. But you're standing here watching a panther who learned your language, understood your systems, freed 17 prisoners, and led them through your station without killing a single being. And you still think he's ordinary? Yurix kept his weapons aimed. Behind Balam, the thunder worm growled softly. The crystalline hunters clicked their legs against the metal floor. The tension was breaking. Then Balam did something nobody expected. He stood up and walked slowly toward the security line. Every weapon tracked him. He reached a data panel, built into the wall near the hangar entrance. The same kind of panel that was on all the cages. The kind he'd been reading all night. He raised his paw and began tapping the panel. Slowly. Carefully. One claw, on specific letters. Everyone watched as words appeared on the screen. Let them go home. The hangar was completely silent. Nobody moved. The words glowed on the screen, clear and impossible. 4 simple words, typed by a panther's claw. Let them go home. Elder Prin stepped closer to the screen, his tree-like body creaking softly. He read the words 3 times, as if reading them again would make them less real. But they stayed the same. This changes everything, Elder Prin said softly. It changes nothing, Velum replied. But his voice lacked its usual confidence. His crystal body flickered through several colors before settling on dark red. We didn't, Daewon said firmly. We can barely understand Galactic Standard ourselves. We use translation devices for everything. We couldn't have taught Balam to read or write your language. Hyojin pulled up her datapad and projected it onto the main screen. Look at our communication logs. Every message we've sent. Every document we've accessed. It's all in Earth languages or through auto-translation. There's no evidence we ever trained Balaam in Galactic Standard. Then how? Demanded Warden Thex. His armor plates rattled as he gestured at Balaam. How does an animal learn to read and write in 3 days? The same way human children learn, Hyojin said. By watching. By listening. By putting patterns together. Balaam has been observing since we arrived. Every sign on the station, every data panel, every control system. He saw the patterns and figured out what the symbols meant. That level of learning requires advanced cognitive ability, Elder Prin said. Self-directed language acquisition. Abstract thinking. Tool use for communication. He paused. These are markers of sentience. Sentience? Velem's crystal body flashed bright orange. Absolutely not. Many animals can be trained to press buttons or follow patterns. This proves nothing. Then test him, Daewon said. His heart was pounding, but he kept his voice steady. Test if Balaam truly understands language or if he's just repeating something he learned. Ask him a question he couldn't possibly know the answer to unless he actually comprehends what the words mean. Ambassador Krill floated forward. The six-limbed diplomat had been watching from the back of the crowd, but now he moved to the front. I agree with the human. A proper test will show us the truth. Fine, Velem said, but when it fails, we proceed with termination. The creature has released dangerous specimens. It has damaged station property. It poses a threat. Elder Prin approached the data panel. He moved slowly, non-threateningly. Balaam watched him but didn't move away. Elder Prin's branch-like finger touched the screen and typed a question. Why did you free the other creatures? Everyone waited. The hangar was so quiet that the hum of the force field sounded loud. Behind Balaam, the 17 freed creatures stood perfectly still. The thunderworm's breath came out in small electrical sparks. The crystalline hunters' bodies caught the light and threw rainbow patterns on the walls. Balaam looked at the screen. Then he raised his paw and began tapping. It took him longer this time. His claws weren't made for typing. But letter by letter, words appeared. They were sad, like me. Want home. First. Sora made a small sound. Taejun's eyes went wide. Even Velem seemed frozen in place. It understands emotions, Ambassador Krill said. It recognized suffering in other beings and acted to end it. That's not training. That's empathy. One more question, Elder Prin said. He typed again. What do you want for yourself? Balaam's response came faster this time. Want them safe first. Me after. It's prioritizing others over itself, Hyojin said. Her voice shook slightly. Or clever programming by the humans, Velem insisted. But he was looking at Daewon and the other humans differently now. Director, said Jiwoo. Everyone turned to look at the engineer, who had been working quietly at a terminal in the corner of the hangar. Jiwoo was young, maybe 25, with quick hands and sharp eyes. I've been analyzing the security footage, looking at everything Balaam did since his escape. And? Velem asked. He accessed the station database. Look. Jiwoo threw the footage onto the main screens. They watched Balaam moving through the ventilation system. At one point, he dropped into an empty office and approached a computer terminal. The terminal was in sleep mode, but Balaam touched it and the screen lit up. His paw moved across the interface, opening files. What is he looking at? Thex asked. Jiwoo zoomed in. The zoo's complete database, every creature in the collection, their species, their homeworlds, their capture status. Balaam spent 14 minutes reading through hundreds of files before he went to the maximum security wing. He was doing research, Daewon said. He wanted to know which creatures were taken from their homes before he freed them. That's why he didn't open every cage. He only freed the ones that had been captured against their will. Ambassador Krill made a whistling sound that meant he was impressed. Premeditated action based on gathered information. Ethical discrimination between justified and unjustified imprisonment. This creature is demonstrating intelligence on par with many consortium species. Impossible, Vellum said again, but the word was losing its power. Director, Elder Prin said gently, we must face the possibility that we were wrong. Perhaps Earth's animals are not primitive. Perhaps we simply didn't look deep enough. We cannot set a precedent, Vellum said. If we acknowledge this creature as sentient, we must acknowledge that we have been capturing and displaying sentient beings without their consent. The entire concept of the Galactic Zoo comes into question. Maybe it should, Hyojin said. Maybe that's exactly what needs to happen. The tension in the hangar grew thicker. Commander Yurik still had his weapons ready. The freed creatures were getting restless. The Thunder Worm's electrical field was growing stronger. The Void Serpent was starting to phase in and out of visibility. We're running out of time, Thex warned. They won't, Taejun said. Not unless we force them to. Look at them. They're waiting. They're following Balam's lead. If we attack, they'll defend themselves. But if we find another solution, they'll accept it. What other solution is there? Vellum demanded. We cannot simply let dangerous creatures leave the station. We cannot transport them back to their homeworlds without authorization. And we certainly cannot acknowledge that our entire zoo system might be flawed. Actually, Ambassador Krill said slowly, there is one option. An ancient provision in the Consortium Charter, Section 7, Paragraph 12. It states that any creature demonstrating clear sentience must be granted basic rights, including the right to speak on behalf of those who cannot speak. You're suggesting we give the Panther legal standing? Vellum's crystal body went dark. Purple. That's absurd, is it? Elder Prin asked. The creature has learned our language. It has communicated its wishes. It has demonstrated moral reasoning and empathy. Under our own laws, those are the requirements for personhood. It's still an animal, Vellum said. So are half the species in the consortium, Ambassador Krill pointed out. We are all animals, Director. The question is not whether Balam is an animal. The question is whether he is a person. A long silence followed. The security teams shifted nervously. The freed creatures watched Balam, and Balam sat perfectly still, his golden eyes fixed on the consortium members. I propose a test, Elder Prin said finally. A fair test that will prove Balam's sentience beyond doubt. What kind of test? Vellum asked. We give him a choice. A real choice. We open the hangar doors. We give him a clear path back to the human ship, with guaranteed safety. If Balam is just an animal acting on trained responses or instinct, he will take the opportunity to escape. Self-preservation is the strongest animal drive. And if he's sentient? Day One asked. Then he will negotiate for the other creatures first. He will put their freedom above his own safety. We make sacrifices for principles. We act against our own interests for the sake of others. This is ridiculous, Vellum said, but fair. Ambassador Krill added. And if the Panther fails, we will know for certain that this was all elaborate training. We will have our answer either way. 18C. Vellum looked around at the other council members. Several were nodding. Others looked uncertain. But nobody was disagreeing with the logic. Very well, Vellum said finally. We will conduct this test. But understand, if the creature simply runs back to the human ship, we proceed with termination of all escaped specimens. Agreed? Agreed, Elder Prin said. Daewon wanted to argue, but Hyojin put a hand on his arm. Thex gave orders to his security teams. They moved to the sides of the hangar, clearing a path. The massive hangar doors began to open. With a deep grinding sound, beyond them, the black void of space was held back by shimmering energy shields, and floating in the distance, clearly visible, was the human transport ship. The path is clear, Elder Prin announced. Balaam, you are free to return to your ship. No one will stop you. You have our word. Balaam stood up. Every eye in the hangar watched him. The thunderworm made a soft, questioning sound. The crystalline hunters clicked nervously. Balaam looked at the open hangar doors. He looked at the human ship waiting for him. Safety. Home. Earth. Everything a captured animal should want. Then he looked at the 17 creatures behind him. He looked at the security teams surrounding them. He looked at the consortium members, waiting for his decision. And Balaam sat back down. He didn't move toward the ship. He stayed exactly where he was, between the freed creatures and the security teams, protecting them. Then he turned back to the data panel and typed one more message. Promise they go home safe. Then I go. The hangar erupted in sound. The sounds in the hangar were impossible to describe. Aliens made noises that human ears couldn't properly hear. Clicks and whistles and rumbles and songs all mixed together. Some sounded shocked. Some sounded amazed. Some sounded angry. Elder Prin raised his branches for silence. It took a full minute for the noise to die down. When everyone was finally quiet, he spoke. The test is complete. The Panther chose to negotiate for others rather than accept his own freedom. This is not training. This is not instinct. This is conscious choice based on moral principles. He turned to look at Director Vellum. The creature is sentient. We can no longer deny this. Vellum's crystal body cycled through every color before settling on pale white. He looked smaller somehow, less certain. This presents enormous problems. If we acknowledge the Panther's sentience, we must review every creature in our collection. We must question whether we have the right to hold any of them. Yes, Ambassador Krill said simply. That is exactly what we must do. The Galactic Zoo has existed for 3,000 years. Another council member protested. We have collected specimens from hundreds of worlds. We have educated billions of beings about the universe's diversity. Are you suggesting we end all of this because one animal learned to type? Not end it, Hyojin said, stepping forward. Transform it. Make it better. Make it ethical. Explain, Elder Prin said. Hyojin took a deep breath. On Earth, we used to keep animals in small cages just for people to look at. We called them zoos. But over time, we learned that was wrong. We changed. Now, we have sanctuaries. Places where animals are protected, studied, and helped. We still learn from them, but we respect their needs, their freedom, their dignity. You're suggesting we convert the Galactic Zoo into a sanctuary? Vellum asked. Why not? Day One added. Keep the creatures that were born here, the ones that know no other home. Release the ones that were taken from their worlds. Use this place to protect endangered species, not imprison healthy ones. Study behavior in ways that don't require cages. This could be something better than a zoo. This could be something the galaxy could be proud of. The council members looked at each other. Long, silent conversations happened through body language. Humans couldn't read. Finally, Elder Prin spoke. We must vote. But not on whether to acknowledge the Panther's sentience. That question is answered. We must vote on whether to reform our entire system based on what we have learned today. AT. This is happening too fast, Vellum said. We need time to consider the implications. The implications are simple, Ambassador Krill said. We either admit we have been wrong and work to fix it, or we ignore the evidence before our eyes and continue causing suffering. There is no middle ground. Call the vote, Elder Prin said. The council members arranged themselves in a circle. Each one glowed or flashed or made a sound to indicate their vote. Day One couldn't follow the counting, but he watched their faces. Some looked angry. Some looked sad. Some looked hopeful. It seemed to take forever. Behind Balaam, the 17 freed creatures waited quietly. The thunder worm's electricity had calmed. The crystalline hunters had stopped clicking. Even the void serpent had become fully solid, watching the proceedings. "The vote is complete," Elder Prin announced. "By a margin of 3 votes, the motion passes. The Galactic Zoo will be reformed into the Galactic Conservation Sanctuary. All creatures captured against their will shall be evaluated for return to their homeworlds. All future collections shall require consent from both the individual creature and its species when possible." The hangar filled with sound again. This time, more of it sounded positive. Furthermore, Elder Prin continued, "Earth's animals are hereby recognized as demonstrating sentient characteristics. Earth shall be granted provisional membership in the consortium's Xenobiology Council." Vellum looked like he wanted to argue, but he simply nodded. "The vote is binding. So shall it be." Warden Thex lowered his weapons. Commander Urix did the same. The security teams relaxed their stances. The immediate danger was over. Now," Elder Prin said, turning to Balam. "We must fulfill our promise. The 17 creatures you freed will be transported back to their homeworlds. We will contact their species and arrange safe returns. This will take time, but it will be done." Balam looked at the data panel. His paw moved slowly across it. "Thank you. And you," Elder Prin continued. "You have a choice. Return to Earth with the humans, or stay here as Earth's first ambassador to the sanctuary. Help us learn to do this better." Balam didn't answer right away. He looked at Day 1, Hyojin, and Taejun, 3 humans who had brought him to the stars. Then, he looked at the freed creatures behind him. Then he looked at the massive space station around him, full of captured beings who might need someone to speak for them. His paw touched the screen. "Stay, but new rules." "What rules?" Vellum asked. Balam typed slowly, thinking through each word. "No more cages for smart ones. No taking without asking. Treat all like they have feelings. Because they do." "Agreed," Elder Prin said. "These will be the foundation of our new charter." Over the next 6 months, the Galactic Zoo transformed. Cages were torn down. Habitats were expanded. Creatures were evaluated by panels that included Balam, Hyojin, and representatives from dozens of species. Some were returned home. Some chose to stay, having been born in captivity and not knowing how to survive elsewhere. But they all got a choice. Day 1 became the director of Earth's xenobiology program, working with the consortium to establish ethical guidelines for studying alien life. Hyojin joined him, specializing in interspecies communication. Taejun stayed as Balam's primary caretaker, though caretaker wasn't the right word anymore. They were colleagues now. Friends, even. Jiwoo became the chief engineer for the sanctuary's new systems, designing habitats that gave creatures more freedom while keeping everyone safe. Sora left her security job and became an animal welfare specialist, checking that all creatures in the sanctuary were being treated properly. And Balaam. Balaam became something unprecedented. An animal who could speak for other animals. A translator between species that couldn't translate for themselves. A voice for those who had none. The consortium gave him a special collar. One with technology built in. It connected to his mind through gentle neural links, reading his intentions and converting them to speech. Not just typed words anymore, but actual spoken language in any tongue the listener needed to hear. The first time Balam used it, addressing a full consortium gathering, the hall fell silent. His voice was deep and calm, with a slight purring quality under the words. "For too long," Balam said, "you have decided what has value based on what looks like you, what thinks like you, what communicates like you. But intelligence comes in many forms. Understanding comes in many languages. Feeling comes in many hearts." He paused, his golden eyes scanning the room. "I am a Panther from Earth. My species does not build ships or write books, or create art you would recognize. But we love our cubs. We mourn our dead. We solve problems. We dream. We hope. We suffer. Are these things not enough to matter? Another pause. The hall remained silent. You brought me here to be judged, to prove my worth. But I have judged you as well. And I found you wanting. Not because you are cruel, but because you had stopped asking the right questions. What questions should we ask? Elder Prin asked gently. Not, how smart is this creature? Balam said. But, what does this creature feel? Not, what can it do for us? But, what does it need to be happy? Not, does it deserve rights? But, how can we protect the rights it already has, just by being alive? The consortium members listened. Some agreed immediately, some took longer to understand. But they all listened. I will stay here, Balam continued. I will help you build something better. Not because I forgive what was done, but because I believe you can change. I have seen humans change. I have seen them learn to treat my kind with respect. Now I will help you learn the same. That speech spread across the galaxy. News services broadcast it in every language. Within a year, 17 other planets had contacted the consortium, asking to have their animals evaluated for sentience. 12 species were recognized. The sanctuary expanded to accommodate them all. 2 years after the escape, the sanctuary held its first open forum on animal intelligence. Representatives from hundreds of worlds attended. Scientists presented findings. Philosophers debated ethics. And at the center of it all sat Balam, answering questions with patience and wisdom. A young alien student, barely old enough to understand the concepts being discussed, asked him, "Why did you free the others before yourself? Weren't you scared?" Balam's golden eyes looked at the young one kindly. Yes, I was scared. Fear is normal. But I had something stronger than fear. What? I had the ability to help. When you can end suffering, it doesn't matter if you're human, alien, or animal. It doesn't matter if you're scared. All that matters is that you choose to act. But you're just the young one stopped, realizing what they were about to say. Just a panther? Balam finished gently. Yes, I am. But just is a word we use when we don't want to look closer. There is no such thing as just anything. Every being is more than the labels we give them. Later that day, Day 1 found Balam standing on a balcony overlooking the sanctuary. Below them, creatures from a dozen worlds roamed in habitats designed for their needs. Some played. Some hunted humanely, monitored prey. Some simply rested in the sun that came through the transparent dome. Are you happy here? Day 1 asked. Truly happy? You could still come home to Earth if you wanted. Balam was quiet for a moment. Then his collar translated his purr into words. Earth will always be home. But this is where I'm needed. These creatures, these beings, who cannot speak for themselves yet, they need someone who understands both sides. Someone who has been in a cage and broken free. Someone who knows what it feels like to be judged as less than you are. You've changed everything, Day 1 said. The whole galaxy is different because of what you did. No, Balam said. I reminded them of what they had forgotten. The capacity for change was always there. Sometimes people need someone to break a few cages before they remember that cages shouldn't exist at all. They stood together in silence, watching the freed creatures below. A thunderworm played with her cubs, born free in the sanctuary. Crystalline hunters clicked to each other in complex patterns that scientists were still trying to understand. A void serpent, phased in and out of reality, apparently just for fun. Hyojin joined them on the balcony. The council wants to know if you'll speak at next month's summit on sentience rights. I will speak, Balam said. I will always speak for those who need a voice. They also asked. Hyojin hesitated. They asked if you know of other Earth animals who might have capabilities they haven't recognized. Dolphins, elephants, whales, apes, crows. Balaam's tail swished thoughtfully. They all have capabilities you haven't fully recognized. The question is not whether they are intelligent. The question is whether you are wise enough to see their intelligence. Should we bring them here? Dewan asked. For evaluation? No, Balaam said firmly. Let them stay on Earth. Free. Wild. Respected from a distance. Learn to see their worth without needing to capture them first. That would be true progress. The sun set beyond the sanctuary dome, casting long shadows across the habitats. Stars began to appear in the artificial sky. Earth's sun was out there somewhere. Billions of miles away. Balaam looked toward it, though he couldn't actually see which star it was. Do you miss it? Hyojin asked softly. The forests? The hunt? Running free? Every day, Balaam admitted. But I chose this. And choice, true choice, is the most important freedom of all. He turned back to look at the sanctuary, at the creatures living better lives because he had refused to accept injustice. At the galaxy, slowly learning to ask better questions. You change their minds about us, Hyojin said. Balaam's collar translated his response, tinged with that distinctive purr. No. I reminded them what they had forgotten about themselves. That intelligence is not about technology, or language, or fitting someone else's definition. It's about recognizing suffering and choosing, always choosing, to act with compassion. And when they forget again? Daewon asked. Because people do forget. Systems fall back into old patterns. Then someone else will break the cages, Balaam said. There will always be someone brave enough to break the cages. The three of them stood on the balcony as darkness fell completely. Below them, the sanctuary lit up with soft lights. Creatures settled down to sleep or woke up to begin their night activities. A thunder worm's electricity cast dancing shadows. A void serpent hummed a song that resonated on frequencies humans couldn't quite hear. And in the distance, more ships approached the sanctuary. More species coming to learn. More creatures coming to be treated with the dignity they deserved. The work would never be truly finished, but it had begun, all because one panther refused to stay in his cage.